Good evening, St. Louis, and welcome into the City Central postgame live on STL Sports Central. I'm Matthew Rocchio, that's Will Bratton, and we are brought to you by our friends at DraftKings Sportsbook, where the crown is yours, as are all postgame shows here on STL Sports Central. And we're finally talking about another victory for St. Louis City SC.
Let's go.
The fourth time this season in league matches, we're breaking down a win for St. Louis City SC. It's just the second time in 18 league matches. Also, the second time in the last 7 matches under David Critchley that they walk away with all 3 points. Also, it's the first time this season they walk away with any points after letting a team score on them first. They go down early in this game to the Portland Timbers, and they eventually roar back. DaCosta scores in the 19th minute, but it's a brace across 13 minutes from Marcel Hartel in the 54th minute and in the 67th minute, and St. Louis City picks up 3 points. Their first points from comebacks. Just an unbelievable game overall. You were at Energizer Park tonight, Will. What was the atmosphere like? What were your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I was a little worried that the atmosphere was going to be a little bit more bleak since it was raining, of course, before the match. There was a Cardinals game that was delayed. People couldn't get out of. So I'm sure traffic was crazy when, that was, ending and all of that. There were a lot of factors that could have limited it. But honestly, it wasn't bad at all in Energizer tonight. It was a lot of energy, probably about 70, maybe 75 to probably like 70, 75% full. It was a good atmosphere. And when Lowen took the pitch, I mean, the roar of that crowd and him nearly scoring on the set piece, which inevitably led to the first Marcel Hartel goal, that was some peak Energizer Park energy right there. It was good stuff. So very happy to be celebrating a win. Very happy to see Eduard Lowen get on the pitch. Very happy to see Marcel Hartel get on the score sheet for the first time in a while. Very happy to see Cedric Teuchert have a good match for the first time in a while, or at least a better match. Happy to see Josh Yarrow have a good match for the first time in like forever. Probably his best match of the season for sure. Very happy to see Yaziel Orozco and Tomas Ustrak have great matches. A lot of things to be happy about tonight, which is a very refreshing taste in the water.
There you go. I like it. Refreshing taste in the water. Let's go to the chat line soon, because we will be going to the chat line all night. If you guys are in there here on STL Sports Central, make sure if you like what we're doing here, like, share, subscribe, hit that bell button, make sure you know we're going live. So even if we go live a couple minutes earlier than prepared tonight, you will know whenever we go live. Eggplant emoji was in early, got this one off before we went live. Was this match a sign of things to come, or was it them falling backwards into a victory, catching the Timbers, having an off night? Well, if you want to take the words of people who know more about the game than us, i.e. the players who are on the pitch, who do know more than us, they were pretty adamant that tonight was the best game of the season. The only person who disagreed with that, aside from, David Critchley, Conrad Vollum, and Marcel Hartel, very adamant that tonight was the best game for St. Louis City. The only person who didn't say that was Roman Berkey. And they allowed a goal, so of course Roman Berkey's not going to be able to agree with that one. But the majority of professional soccer players tonight agreed it was the best game of the season for St. Louis City. So for you, Will, sign of things to come, or them falling a little backwards into a good game?
I think it's a sign of things to come. I mean,
Absolutely.
The summer window's coming up soon. You're getting healthier. Your players are getting into better form. All the ingredients are there for you to start winning some games, Whether or not you even make, a sniff towards the playoffs or not is probably still not going to happen at this point. But you're definitely going to start winning some more games and at least getting some better results, sporadically as the end of the season kind of comes about. So I think it's definitely a sign of things to come. Obviously, ending this season strong is going to be a key in 2026. So it still matters, even if City get eliminated from the playoffs at some point.
Absolutely. And, I was going to say this for later, but as we bring it up, Ryan Bailey says best ball movement on the season. I will not disagree with that. And let's just jump into a little bit of the numbers here, because this might be your answer for whether or not this was City having a good game or Portland kind of getting walked over. And it's complete dominance in every facet of the game tonight. That right there is an unbelievable performance from St. Louis City. To David Critchley's point, in the first half, they controlled the ball, although it resulted in them going down 1-0. They completely controlled the ball, 78% field tilt, which means they had the ball in Portland's side of the half consistently. There's everything. Shots, all red, winning this battle. You look at passes. Again, we have not seen a statistical comparison like this for St. Louis City in any game outside maybe the Rapids game to open the entire season. We have not seen this much City red being highlighted when we look at passing. And even when you look at the defense, they had a really good game offensively, so you'd expect the interceptions and the clearances to have to be higher from Portland. But nonetheless, tackles won, blocks, duels won. I mean, that was a gritty all around. Every facet of that game was impressive by St. Louis City. And that's why I think you have to lean to your point saying that was an impressive game by St. Louis City. And they did that without having arguably one of their best field players in Henry Kessler.
Yeah, absolutely.
More impressive, honestly.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's way more impressive when you look at the players who were available for this match. And Yasiel Orozco, especially when he's getting the start at left back, the situation's definitely tough. Although he did earn that, don't get me wrong, and he played a phenomenal match, by the way. But things are in a tough situation when that's kind of the situation you're in. Those are the players that you have to start. But to their credit, it was a fantastic match. I was very, very pleased. And like I said, I think. When your depth players really can step up in that way, it's such a good sign of what things are going to look like when you're healthy as well, because then those depth players who've been playing great are now fighting to keep that job from the returning healthy players. So they're going to want to keep performing well, and it's just a good environment to be in.
Absolutely. I just wanted to go back to this stat because, again, Ryan Fraley says best ball movement of the season. Undoubtedly, all those passing numbers are absolutely huge. But the big one I want to highlight here, because I had some tweets going out about Cedric Toyshirt and Marcel Hartel's performance in the game here. 43 touches in the opposition box for St. Louis City SC.
One of the most this season.
That is an absolutely massive number. And yes, as you're saying that, Will, I'm actually looking at it right now. Based on FBref, that is far and away, because I was pretty sure off the top of my head I had the number. And yes, Orlando City and Colorado, the very first game of the season against Colorado, were both 32 touches in the opposition's box. So to see 43 for St. Louis City SC, we're talking about a 33% boost in arguably one of the most indicative stats of your ability to attack and be threatening in a game. That is a massive, massive improvement for St. Louis City. And again, they got some people back in the offense. And so obviously that's where we should be seeing the huge jump. So that's, man, that number right there, 43 touches in the opposition box. 10 of them being from Cedric Toyshirt, who has been silent the majority of the season. His game high coming into this week was 4. Like I said in the tweet, you can package any 4-game stretch for Cedric Toyshirt in this season, and he comes up to at the most 9 touches in the opposition box across 4-game stretch. Tonight he had 10. It was a completely different game from the ability of St. Louis City to control the ball in the second half and in the attacking third. That's been their biggest Achilles heel the entire season. It's what completely killed them throughout February, March, and April, and into May. And now they're finally starting to turn it around. There's some confidence in how they're handling the ball in the final third. And that alone has to give St. Louis City fans a lot of confidence and just excitement to what they get to watch here the rest of the season.
Yeah, and it's exciting, and it's confidence building for the players too. I just had the chance to speak with like a whole slew of players. Like the whole team came in for the press tonight. It was Critchley, then it was Hartel, then it was Berkey, then it was Vollum, then it was Orozco. So I got to speak with five people from City tonight, and all of them were talking about the confidence. All of them were talking about how important training was this week and how incredible the intensity and the quality was at training this week. So definitely very good for the team to finally get to eat some of the fruits of the tree they've been planting over this whole time with this training. And they've talked, week in and week out about training's better this week and training's better this week and training's better this week. And we've done so well in training. And then now they finally get the result. They get a couple of goals. They're able to manage a match late, which they haven't done all season. So, I mean, just a lot of smiles going around, a lot of confidence to brew for this team.
Yeah, it's hard not to be a little smiley after that game. I know it's a small sample size, and we can't get too over our skis. They're still not a great team. They're still probably not going to make the playoffs because I don't see them ripping off like 10 games straight, which is essentially what they would have to do at this point to make the playoffs. Ryan Fraley in the chat, I felt encouraged after that first half that we played much better, even though we were down. And then Hartel awakened from his slump. Daniel Guevara also saying great performance tonight. Hartel was a freaking beast. And Will, we spent a lot of time in just our latest episode of Boots on the Ground talking about Marcel Hartel, talking about what we've seen from him this year, talking about specifically what he could do this game because Edward Lubin was going to come on. Obviously, Edward Lubin comes on, and things changed for St. Louis City.
Yeah.
Just overall, your impression, what you saw from Marcel Hartel covered a lot of ground today. He was all over the pitch. And, of course, he was impactful in the box for really the first time this season.
Yeah, for me, I noticed in the first half specifically, and I was talking about this up in the booth, and he was just so good in the half spaces in the middle third and just being able to get into those, little pockets of space and open his hips up, receiving the ball and distribute. And he was fantastic in that in the first half, but it wasn't leading all of the time, at least, to very good possession spells. Instead, he had a lot of good possession spells in the first half, but things kind of fell apart a little later in the half, and it wasn't translating very well. But in the second half, I saw his touches on the ball getting higher up the pitch, and those half spaces he was finding were higher up the pitch because Klaus and Teuscher were pushing that line higher up for him to kind of get into those spaces. And he was so much more effective in the second half for that reason. He was finding all sorts of through balls. He was finding, he found Totland on like a switch on one that I was like, okay, like that's good that we have that in our arsenal, because, some of these opportunities are the types of things you see from EPL teams. These are the types of passes they're looking to make. And if we have players who are also looking to make those types of passes and can complete them that aren't named Edouard Leuven, that helps, because obviously we don't have Edouard Leuven consistently right now. And even if we do, having multiple players on the pitch that can do that, nice. So I was very happy with Hartel tonight. He was very effective in the final third, very active. Him and Klaus were really hitting a lot of one-touch balls together tonight that were very dangerous around the top of the 18. I mean, all night tonight, they were just farming touches around that area. So I was very happy with what I saw from him tonight. And I think this is, in fact, a product of what Rock and I have spoken about on Boots on the Ground, which is him getting more free, getting higher up the pitch, getting in those half spaces. And that's a product of a team that's better in possession. So, it's just a good time. It's a good time right now. It's a good time to be Marcel Hartel.
It's definitely a good time to be Marcel Hartel. And if you just look at the heat map of Marcel Hartel, it's apparent just exactly what everyone expected, what David Critchley was talking about in the post game and in the pregame interview on Friday, whichever day that was. It's just the heat map you're looking at him tonight. It's just everything is high up on the flanks. His biggest red areas. He's got two big red areas on the left flank, and he's got one big red area on the right flank. Not so much in the middle, but he's got some spots in the box. There's more touches in the box. Everything's more offensive, and there's a lot less defensive touches. And that's exactly what we talked about in Boots on the Ground. It's just the expectation being that not just him playing more passes forward and not having to recycle the ball as a six, which we haven't seen him do under Critch very often. I think he's played maybe one game under Critch at the six. Mostly he's been playing in the 10. But getting Leuven now to consistently be the playmaker. This is what we asked Marcel Hartel about in the pregame press conference on Friday. We asked him, is there a chance for you now to look more to the goal as a scorer because you don't have to be the primary playmaker because Leuven's back in? He was like, yeah, I can do more things now. I can get further forward. And what do we see today? We see a season high in touches in the box. We see obviously the brace from him. Those things are direct consequences of Edouard Leuven being in the game. And then he can naturally just be higher up. And after, the one recycled play after Edouard Leuven's free kick, instead of him having to maybe come back to the second level and be a recycler outside the box, he can stay there and press that back line like a natural attacking forward or a scorer would do. He presses that back line, and there he is for the goal. And I just think every part of what we saw from Marcel Hartel directly connected to the return of Edouard Leuven. And it's nice to see an actual plan come to fruition this season. Like I think it's fair to say a lot of St. Louis City's best laid plans have been scuppered before they've really gotten going. And tonight that wasn't the case. It finally worked exactly like you planned, and it got you 3 points because of it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a good execution. We've every single match pretty much lately, Critch has talked about, not feeling like they were getting the result, but, they were trailing in this stat, but they were really good in this one. And it was just a more complete performance tonight for me, where everything just kind of fell into place. Obviously, there were spells in the first half where really it wasn't like that, but they were able to kind of hold on and keep themselves in the match. And we were able to see them get that win out at the end, which is, that's just what you need at the end of the day.
Yeah, to your point, they really were, according to the match momentum chart on FootMob, just really just kind of legging things out there to try to win that game. But I do want to bring this up because the momentum does show how Portland was able to control the ball and get things going and threaten a little bit in the second half. But man, other than that, they really didn't have very many long periods of time. You see the control there in the first half from St. Louis City SC. That was impressive. Just all of this overall, I was really impressed from St. Louis City. Their ability to control the game. And I just love, no matter what you say about David Critchley, no matter what you say about this team, I love that Critch's idea at the end of games is we're going to keep pushing forward, nail the coffin. We're going to put the nail in the coffin with the third goal. We're not just going to focus on stopping the second goal. I know some people might disagree with it. I know there's some games where it's going to bite you in the ass. I know maybe even Marcel Hartel doesn't agree with it based on some of his answers. But nonetheless, I like what we saw from St. Louis City in closing out this game because that's what this team's going to have to do, to your point. You can't win every game 3-2. You're going to have to close out games in a 30-minute stretch where no scoring happens. That's exactly what they did.
I mean, it was smart. We saw Klaus and Vollum, taking the ball to the corner. We saw Leuven getting high up the pitch and creating these like semi-harmless, dangerous attacking situations that Portland has to commit numbers back to come defend, right? And it's not necessarily about can City beat them in those moments and find a goal. If they can, fantastic. But at the end of the day, you have to hold the ball long enough in their defensive third to make them commit numbers back so that when eventually they do get the ball, they can't just transition and try and tie the game up. So it was very good match management from City, and in my opinion, really the only game all season where I felt like they've managed the match well. So yeah,
you had an opinion right out of the gate that I wanted to jump into because I saw some people coming after this player after the first goal, the early goal by DaCosta in Portland, but you thought it was an overall solid game from Josh Yaro. Just your thoughts on what you saw from Josh Yaro tonight.
Yeah, I thought Josh Yaro was great. I mean, there were numerous 50-50s that he was stepping into and just dominating. And not only was he winning the ball in those and being a stopper, but he was completing passes after winning the ball, which is not something we've seen from him really this season. I mean, I really thought it was his best match of the season. On that first goal, if you think it's on Yaro, you need to go watch it back because what you can see is a gaping, empty gap with no City player in front of Tomas Totland. Why? Because that's one of the limitations of running the 4-2-3-1 where Cedric Toyshirt or Simon Betcher's your right winger. And that's a conversation we've had a million times that I've talked about on Twitter, on Boots on the Ground, on this show, on post-game shows. I've talked about this everywhere, on Instagram also. I mean, this is the one thing I hate about this formation. But that's not the debate right now. The debate is that this guy is able to have all the space in front of Tots to receive the ball and have his first touch positive towards the goal. And that's not on Totland at all. What happens is no CDM is able to track back and deal with that because we don't have our Durkin, we don't have our Leuven, who's usually responsible for that type of thing. Tomas Ustrak, Conrad Vollum, we're kind of asleep at the wheel here. The only person who closed the ball down was Joao Klaus, who sprinted from midfield. That's a bad sign. That's a bad defensive moment from the midfield, and the same thing we've seen in numerous matches lately. And this happened a second time, and Portland nearly punished City for it a second time in that moment. But overall, they were able to squeak away with only conceding one goal from those. And it wasn't on Josh Yaro for me at all on that first goal. And in the second half, they completely shut Portland down. It was a great defensive performance from the midfield and from the back line in the second half. So I was very pleased with that for sure. But the first half, really, there were those moments where I was very concerned about what I was seeing with Portland and really City's kind of reaction to what was going on.
Tomas Ostrak's another name that we have not got to mention tonight that we really should. He had a fantastic game, some slicing passes in the first half that really opened up the early attacks. Also, a key pass as part of the buildup that would lead to the first goal for St. Louis City to tie things up. He was all over the place in the middle of the field. He took care of that right kind of central part as well, connecting things there. To your point, things get a little bit. They need a connector there because Wallum's up far right, Cedric Toyshirt's pushing inside, so they need a connector in that little half space on the right center midi. I thought Tomas Ostrak was absolutely fantastic tonight.
Oh, he was phenomenal tonight, and he really deserves an assist for that second goal from Marcel Hartel as well. I mean, the play on that was just unbelievable. He won like 2 duels at midfield and then dribbled up like 30 yards, finds Hartel out wide, and then Hartel's able to find Pompeu, who inevitably gets the service for Hartel's second goal there with an unbelievable left-footed volley. That was awesome. But I mean, Ustarak deserves an assist on that play. I mean, he's not going to get an apple for it, but he deserves one. I mean, he had a fantastic match. And in my opinion, I really think that was one of his best shifts in his time in St. Louis City, honestly. I really, he was fantastic tonight.
And really, I know that we were kind of criticizing the formation because it puts people in bad situations. To this point, Thomas Ostrak, the majority of his touches tonight were actually in the offensive side of the pitch. And I know, again, we're talking about a game where they controlled the field pitch. So more often than not, you're going to see St. Louis City from tonight, players playing in the offensive side of the pitch. But it does kind of get to the point of what you were saying, which is this can be a risky way to play. And the question starts becoming about whether or not St. Louis City can win that risk. And I think that's why, as we kind of move forward from what we have tonight, that's why the addition of potentially a Fayu Fall is so important, because if you can be confident that the three players you sit back, your left back that kind of shifts over to be a third center back, and your your nominal center backs, if you can be confident those guys can shut down more plays, then things like Tomas Ostrak playing more often, playing more plays, playing more touches in the opposition's attacking half, that becomes a luxury that now City has going forward week after week to continue manufacturing the offense. There's always going to be the balance. I understand that City is going to be a more offensive team than defense. People like to say that's just how the MLS is going to be. But I think that's why, for me, a move like Fall is more important than the $4 million move being the big offensive player, because I'm not sure if the big offensive player is going to get the chances if they're not pushing forward.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, Fayu Fall is such a good acquisition if they can get that transfer done. Obviously, we'll probably find out in the coming days about that, as well as Sungbin Jeong from Minnesota and Devin Paddleford from Minnesota on a loan. So these are the types of moves that are, it ticks all the boxes for City. And you're absolutely right. It shows a little bit of a trust in kind of your attacking group, and also a little bit in the health, coming back of your sixes. Huh?
So much depth in the attack too.
Oh,
compared to every other spot.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited for Sungbin Jeong. I think he's going to be fantastic on the right wing. He's been suffering in the Minnesota 5-back system. His production fell off an absolute cliff as soon as Minnesota last year switched to that 5-back. And I think he had like one goal all season since they switched to that, and one goal since then in general. He hasn't scored this year. And it just hasn't been ideal for him. I think he's going to do fantastic in St. Louis City's system. I think, slotting into that right wing kind of spot where Betcher and Toyshirt have kind of been playing is going to be perfect for him. Obviously, he'll probably start from the bench, but has the opportunity to earn that starting spot. He's a U22 player. He just got his green card. He doesn't take an international slot. He checks every box. It's so good. I'm very happy with him. Very happy with Fayu Fall. I'm happy that we'll have an extra body defensively as well in Paddleford for the remainder of the season. Of course, I'm sure Minnesota is going to want him back afterwards because he is their first homegrown ever. And I'm sure they're going to want him back. So I doubt that loan will have a purchase option, but that'll be nice to have him. It's just a lot of good noise happening here. And here's a good look at Sungbin's kind of his player profile here. I guess, Rock, you want to go ahead and break this down for us?
Yeah. The red is last season when he played a lot more, over 2,000 minutes. The blue is this season. He obviously hasn't played a lot for Minnesota United, or to your point, this year. But when he has played for Minnesota this year, he's showing a high percentage of self-created shots and open play shots created for others. Obviously, you love those stats. But if you look at the ones you can probably, settle in on more, high shooting percentage, high non-penalty goals, high successful dribbles, high carrying, high progression, those kind of things that they really need. And to your point, obviously, there should be no question as to where he slots in. This is his heat map from his 2,000 minutes last year with Minnesota United. It looks a little different this year because he's coming in off the bench, so he's playing in a couple different spots. But we clearly see where he likes to play the most. This is the Rasmus Alm has been gone the entire year. We finally need somebody to hug the right line, and that changes how we can play a lot of different things. It even potentially, the big thing for me is I know they're talking, and I've made some jokes about how they're dogmatic about the 4-2-3-1. I think this move actually allows them to play a more traditional 4-4-2, which I think then allows them to more traditionally play Seti and Simon as classic strikers instead of having to play them as inverted inside forwards. And so I
Correct.
think that gives them a lot of flexibility, allows them to do a lot of overlapping on the right side with Totland and things like that. So I like the move. I like what we're seeing, and I understand why. And that's for me why I agree that the big money move is on the defensive side. I know a lot of people aren't with that, but I think it makes a lot of sense. And I think to your point, you kind of saw some things tonight. We've seen a lot of things over the last few games as to why it's leaning that way.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And it also kind of goes towards this comment from Eggplant Emoji, which is who's going to get offloaded. And while you're signing a center back and you're bringing in another center back capable supplemental player, it's going to be a center back, right? And you're looking at Joachim Nielsen, who hasn't played. He's on a high salary, doesn't play. You're signing some higher salary, high profile players. It's very obvious that a center back's going to be falling out of the fold here for St. Louis City. And the most likely candidate is Joachim Nielsen. Of course, in the offseason, a lot of players are going to be out because a lot of players are in contract years. So you might see guys like Josh Yarrow leave. You might see guys like Akil Watts even leave, or even Jay Reed maybe could get moved in the offseason. You also see guys like Rasmus Alm not get picked up on their options that they have. So there's going to be a lot of movement here. And like, for me this offseason, I'm expecting Nielsen to be the candidate to get offloaded, if anybody at all. I wouldn't expect it to be Klaus. I wouldn't expect it to be anybody else on this team. It's going to be Joachim Nielsen or nobody.
Yes, and I think Eggplant was also wondering if we'll see more cuts to the roster to open up spots at the window. I don't think we will. They still have, even after the potential, if the Minnesota United moves go down, they still have one senior spot and one supplemental spot available. Now, we obviously would like to see Mekhi Joyner take the supplemental spot, but that still gives them flexibility for one more move this transfer window. So they don't need to cut anybody. Joachim Nielsen could still could be on the roster, potentially get healthy for the last couple of months, and maybe we see something. Maybe he changes the conversation. So you don't have to pull the trigger on that yet. To your point, though, if it doesn't change, that would be the most likely trigger because I also think maybe a decision made between the Hebert Yarrow, depending on Nielsen's health, I think maybe could be the other move because we know that Lutz has a lot of positive thoughts and really likes what he sees from a healthy Joachim Nielsen and how highly he rates him.
Right.
So I just wonder if we'll see them pull the trigger or if we'll see some reasonable GM stubbornness where it's like, I just can't give up on a guy with this much talent.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if he stayed. Honestly, no, I kind of would be shocked if he stayed. I wouldn't be shocked if Lutz would want to keep him, but you have a player like that, you have to, I should say a player with a salary like that. You have to, think about it with MLS rules. If we were a club in Europe where there wasn't a salary restriction, I guarantee you they wouldn't let go of him.
No. But
we are in MLS where the rules suck. So his hands are kind of tied unless City want to risk being severely depleted defensively again all of next season. They got to move him. So I really think the odds of him leaving this summer are incredibly high. So we will see what happens with that for sure.
Yeah, the big thing with him is that his contract is that he is in contract through 2026 and has an option for 2027. So that's the only reason why I think we could see them. And obviously, the big question is what are they getting from doctors? What are they getting from the rehab people who are saying about his injuries right now? Are they giving him any kind of prognosis of saying, listen, as soon as we get over the hump, he shouldn't have these issues anymore? And then at the same time, do they even buy that considering they've obviously had a lot of issues with players?
Signing Fall, I just have such a hard time believing that's the case. I just really, I don't. I mean, because you think about it, Henry Kessler, Timo Baumgartel, Fayu Fall, you already have three incredible quality center backs.
That's true, but I also think I also don't know. And Timo's the same case. Contract through 2026, option year through 2027. I also just wonder with Fayu Fall, that young, that much of an athlete, do they think he can play other spots? I wonder that as well. You don't need him to, but this is to your point though. When you have a talented, the other side is you're also not a European team. When you have a talent in your roster or on your roster, it makes it hard to just completely just cut bait. Is another aspect of it. So again, if this was an option year in 2026, it wouldn't even be a conversation. And if this was maybe a player with a slightly lower potential ceiling, it wouldn't be a conversation. But to your point, that's also why the Fayu Falls move is so important. Because if they do have to cut bait with somebody of that level and just go forward with saying Kessler, Fall, and then Timo's our backup, and then hopefully we don't have to get further than that, although we've seen that sometimes you do have to get further than that. That's where the conversation probably hitches, to your point, and probably leads to Joachim Nielsen having to take the axe this offseason. But to Eggplant's point, probably won't have to see that here this summer.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, at the end of the day, we're going to find everything out in like the next 2 weeks, the next really 11 days. We're probably going to know everything. I'm sure City will have most of their business done by the time the window actually opens on July 24th. So we'll be aware of all that stuff. Of course, the window is open for, I think, like 2.5 or 3 weeks until like August 11th or something like that.
Short window.
Yeah, but yeah, it's pretty short. But I think City will have all their stuff done right at the start, especially considering the direness of their situation. So, we'll find things out pretty soon.
Yeah, absolutely. That'll be the key. I think we've seen probably, I think really only one more move, August 21st, July 24th to August 21st. So just under.
It's actually a lot longer than I thought it was.
Just under a month, just over 3 weeks for the MLS transfer window this season. Again, Thursday the 24th to Thursday, August 21st. So I guess that's technically exactly, is that exactly 4 weeks then? Not a month, but I guess 4 weeks. Thursday to Thursday, late July to late August. 3 moves look like they're coming for St. Louis City SC. I wouldn't be surprised if we see one more. I'd probably put the cap just because of the roster flexibility, the money side of things. I'd be shocked to see any more than that. And the 5th move would obviously be that one supplemental spot, because the 4th move would take the last senior spot. That last supplemental spot, we all know what we want to happen with that one. We want to see Kai Joyner, and I think there's a good chance we do get to see that from St. Louis City SC this year. Speaking of things we love to see, we love to hang out with our friends over at DraftKings Sportsbook, where the crown is yours. Promo code STL Sports. Check out their newest app. That's the DraftKings Pick 6 app. So easy, and they allow you to play right here in Missouri right now. You can get it on your phone, download it right now. You can go ahead and put in your wagers on the Pick 6 app. What do? You select higher or lower, more or less, I should say, on players' stats. So like tonight, if they would have had a stat for how long the Cardinals game was going to take, you would have taken more on the Cardinals game taking forever. Or if you wanted to go with hits for a guy like Ivan Herrera or maybe even Matt Olson against the Cardinals, you could have paired those together. Those could have been your 2 picks. More on Ivan Herrera, hits, runs, and RBI. More on Matt Olson, hits, runs, and RBI. You can't do it tomorrow because the Braves are out of town, but nonetheless, that's what you could have done today with the Cardinals. That's how the Pick 6 works. All these stats out here, when we're talking basketball, you can wager on free throws, point totals, rebounds, what have you. With baseball season locked in, with soccer season going like now, you can pick any stat you want within the Pick 6 app. Pick 2 to 6 players, build your wager there, and you're going to be playing and having some fun on DraftKings Pick 6. And here's the thing. If you put in our promo code, STL Sports, right there on your screen, STL Sports, you're going to play $5 and get $50. I mean, you play $5 now, you get 1 play. You're going to get 10 free plays just like that. Play $5, get $50 with our friends over at DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours with their new game, the DraftKings Pick 6, and our promo code, STL Sports. Get in the game right now with DraftKings Sportsbook Pick 6.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
Will Bratton and Matthew Rocchio here on the City Central postgame live on STL Sports Central. If you've enjoyed the show, do us a favor, hit that like, share, and subscribe button at the other corner.
Do it.
There we go. The like, share, and subscribe button. Make sure you hit the bell button. You know, whenever we're going live right here on STL Sports Central. If there's a game going in St. Louis, we're going live right afterwards. All the Cardinals games for the rest of the season. Whenever there's big news, when there's transfer news finally breaking for real, me and Will will also be going live right here on City Central to talk about everything City Central breaking news. We will be live right here on YouTube on STL Sports Central. You can also check us out at stlsportscentral.com. Will Bratton bringing you some great written articles there, including the ones you need to be watching, the shopping list for Lutz. He's in the supermarket. He's pulling things off the shelves and putting them in his shopping cart. He's going to be hitting the register soon, so make sure you check out STL Sports Central to follow all the moves with St. Louis City SC. Again, make sure you hit those like, share, subscribe button, and the bell button so that when you're watching here on YouTube, you're always watching us when we go live for City Central Postgame, City Central Reactions, Cardinal Central, what have you. It's been a good night tonight. St. Louis City finally gets another win, their second win under David Critchley in his 7th match at the helm. Their second win in the last 18 league matches for St. Louis City SC. Is this the beginning of a crazy late season turnaround, including some extra additions at the summer transfer window? Well, after today, we know some new bodies are coming. Will the wins continue? Either way, we'll be with you after every game right here on STL Sports Central. Will, thank you again for today. You were fantastic, and I hope you enjoyed Energizer Park's energy tonight.
Yeah, it was great. Happy to be here at the park always, especially on a Sunday night. It was great. Great to host Sunday night soccer as well here in St. Louis under the arch. Very happy with the result. 2-1 over the Portland Timbers. City's 4th win puts them at 18 points and clear of the wooden spoon race for now.
For now, yes. For now, 18 points. They are now clear of 3 other wooden spoon targets, LA Galaxy and Montreal. The 2 other wooden spoon targets, St. Louis City alongside Toronto FC now with 18 points, although Toronto does have a match in hand. And if you're also,
I gotta say one thing.
I'll get squirrely with it.
Off real quick.
Yeah, Houston Dynamo are sitting at 26 points right now in the, Austin FC is in the 9th spot in the wild card. They have 27 points. City FC is 9 points behind them, and Austin FC also has a game in hand. So if Austin FC wins their next game, puts them at 30, City would be 10 points behind the 9th spot, who have the San Jose Earthquakes. So 10 points to make up in just 12 games left to play. That math is difficult.
It's difficult, but Rock, if they win at Dallas next weekend and then the window opens up, things could happen.
We got to get Will some math classes in between now and then. This has been City Central Postgame on STL Sports Central. Tune in midweek for a new episode of Boots on the Ground while we break down everything that happened for this game and also catch up on the midweek news, and also next weekend for City Central Postgame all over again when City, I guess, wins again and Will's completely just head in the clouds for their playoff run, whatever. This has been City Central Postgame. It's a City victory, 2-1 over the Portland Timbers. For Will Bratton, I'm Matthew Rocchio. This is STL Sports Central, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, where the crown is yours.